Hi everybody, I'm Trish Christ. In this episode of Our Nashville, NECAT and our super crew of teens spend some time with Mental Health America of the MidSouth. President and CEO Tom Starling and his team are going to show and tell us all the important things they do in our community. You ready, Tom?
Yes.
You ready, super crew?
Yeah.
All right, let's get started.
It's our Nashville.
It's our Nashville.
It's our Nashville.
We all know how to talk about our organization during meetings, but what about the chance encounter of a lifetime? You never know who may share your next elevator, notice your logo on a notebook or a tote bag, and ask what you do. What's the clearest, most persuasive thing you can say in a short elevator ride?
What we do is promote mental health and wellness across Tennessee through education, advocacy, and services. Mental illnesses are real and treatable, and we need to treat mental health just like physical health.
I am so happy to have you here. I have a lot of things I want to ask you about and learn from you. And the first thing that strikes me about Mental Health America of the Mid-South is that your name is mental health. It's not about mental illness. And I think that's kind of beautiful and important. Tell me about why the choice in the name Mental Health America.
Yeah, you know, we actually started nationally over a century ago. There's a gentleman named Clifford Beers who put himself in an institution, and he almost couldn't get out back then in these asylums. And when he got out, he wrote the President of the United States and said this was deplorable. You know, people need health and restoration. They don't need imprisonment. And so he started what was back then the mental hygiene movement.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Then that became mental health. And our organization has never really focused on an illness, bipolar, depression, schizophrenia. We've always focused on prevention, early intervention, treatment, recovery, social inclusion. So it's never been about the illness. It's been on recovery and hope and health. And we want people to treat their mental health just like physical health.
It's not dissimilar to physical health at all. I've been sort of on a gym kick lately where I'm trying to proactively take better care of myself and be stronger and so forth. And I think there's work to be done for the whole body.
There is, and just to let you know, it's not something that this starts at a very young age. I mean, we're seeing now people talking about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and how even your brain as a child, if you've endured trauma, which could be physical, emotional, the parent split up or whatever, but that trauma can follow you the rest of your life. And if you don't have hope and healing and peace and know that certain emotions are okay, that actually harms you throughout. Now, there is always a way to mitigate those past circumstances, but we tell people, whether it's workplace wellness or going through a social or emotional unhealthy time or a severe persistent mental illness like bipolar or schizophrenia, these mental illnesses, they're real and they're treatable. So I know a lot of older people maybe say, you just need to get behind an ox for 10 hours a day, and you'll
Right.
But I'm telling you, it's just important as physical health.
I can see that. And there's a stigma around mental illness or mental health struggles, I'll call them, which kind of doesn't make sense because it's not rare. It's not odd. It's fairly common, in fact.
You're right. I think that throughout our history, the stigma has been the biggest barrier, our biggest enemy that we fight. In fact, with our organization doing everything from the womb to the tomb, I mean, if it's anti-bullying in the schools or Alzheimer's or suicide prevention, we tell people, get help now. Overcome the stigma. People think that if they ask for help with their kidneys or their blood pressure, that's normal, but maybe if they ask for something for their mind, that they're defective.
Right.
And that's the most important organ we have. So we tell people, don't duck mental health, get help now.
Let's talk about how common different types of mental health struggles might be. If there are 100 people in the room, roughly how many of those folks might be going through something that would be considered a mental health struggle?
About 20. And I say that there might be 5 or 6 with a severe persistent mental illness, but annually 1 in 5 people are diagnosed or diagnosable with a mental illness of some sort. Again, that could be something
Super common. Super common.
It is. I mean, there's not a family, a workplace, that's
Immune.
Immune.
Yeah.
That's right. They all have something going on. Unfortunately, a lot of times they try to bury it, or you're going to grow out of it, but you need to get help for those family members.
Mental health is just as important as physical health. I don't know that I appreciated that when I started volunteering here, but over the years I've come to appreciate that mental health is critical to one's well-being. And the stigma is really a shame that mental health faces. If you look at the statistics, and I don't spend nearly as much time as I should in them, but if you look at the statistics, 1 in 5 people deal with a mental health issue every year. And so if that's not you, that's great, but there's a good chance that if it's not you, it's touched somebody close to you.
Let's talk about that then. What is the difference? How do I know if what's going on with me is a rough patch, I'll get through this, or is it, how do I know it's something that I will not be able to solve by myself?
We get that call a lot. It might be people, there's bereavement and people grieving over the death of a loved one, and they grieve for 3 or 4 years to where their anger and their emotions, it's really turned into depression, severe depression. In fact, their physical health is being impacted by that. I always tell people, you need to ask someone else. You need to ask a parent or a coworker or a spouse, or go see a counselor. We all need someone to talk to. And actually, the biggest protective factor when it comes to mental health is connectedness. So socialize, build friendships, talk to a family member, talk to people who will be honest with you. And if you can't think of anyone, go see a guidance counselor at school. Go utilize your EAP, your Employment Assistance Program at work. Ask a friend. We smoke with our mouths, we drink with our mouths, and we're not talking as much as we used to with our mouths. And
That's funny.
we need to
We
be
talk
able to
like
do
this
that.
now?
It is. Connectedness is a big protective factor, and instead you see a fragmented society with people texting and not being able to communicate feelings and resolve conflicts, and suddenly it's just you're bullying me or you're disrespecting me, and you can see where the community as a whole is going.
What are some signs that let you know about yourself, this is serious, or that let you know about someone in your world, that is serious and I need to reach out?
We'll ask people the wrong question. We'll say, you're not thinking about doing something stupid, are you?
Right. It's not stupid to them.
Yeah. I mean, that's the wrong way there's only one way to answer that. But to say, hey, sometimes when things aren't going well with me, I think about maybe even hurting myself. Are we talking about suicide here? And to confront that
Name it.
person, because later on you could come and say, hey, come with me to get help for you. Or let's take an online screening. Or let's call Mental Health America. Or let me connect you with somebody who can talk to you about that. Because I think that we should take seriously every call for help. And people will say that. They'll say, oh, well, they just want attention. I would say give them the attention every time. One suicide is one too many. And for many years now, suicide has been the 9th or 10th leading cause of death in Tennessee. That's more than car wrecks, that's more than many other diseases, and we need to take that seriously. And fortunately, Mental Health America, about half of our staff is composed of the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, TSPN. So we have 4 or 5 people at our office always willing to talk to you about suicide.
We really thrive on all of our volunteers being involved with the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. The governor appoints our advisory council. We have 32 members all across the state. We don't even give them compensation, mileage, reimbursement, or anything for their time and their dedication to the network. We have our states divided up into 9 different regions, and those folks that are appointed by the governor are responsible for helping assist staff in those regions to implement strategies to reduce the numbers of suicide.
You can either seek help in the crisis moment, or you can become informed of where to seek help if a crisis moment comes your way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I would say people typically wait too long. Every helpline call we get, they should have called us about 6 or 8 weeks earlier.
Wow.
And we're not a crisis team. Mental Health America, we do education and advocacy. So when you call us to schedule an appointment for a counselor, we're really good at making a referral and tying you to a counselor or a facility that takes TennCare or commercial insurance. Or if you have no insurance, we will help you find the help that you need. That's really our job as well.
So we do a lot of advocacy. We work with a lot of different organizations that are around in the area. So we're on boards and panels. Like I'm the vice chair for Region 5 right now, which is through the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. I also sit on a couple of different panels like in Rutherford County or other counties that are around, and almost everybody here in the office does as well. And so we're really active in the community trying to get people engaged and involved. And because of that, we've got a really wide network of people that help distribute stuff for us.
Let's talk about your different services then. I know you work with the elderly in an Alzheimer's support sort of way. I know you work with young people. I know you work with professional mental health service providers.
You know a lot about us.
Not my first time learning about Mental Health America.
I think that's great. We do. So we are out in the community with our duck puppet and our duck mascot, teaching children don't duck mental health and talking to them about anger management and managing bullies and bad days and negative emotions. So we're in the schools and at health fairs doing that.
We have 2 coordinators, one in Middle, one in West Tennessee, where we go into schools and we do presentations with children where we'll talk to them about different books or different emotions that they have going on and try to help them understand a little bit more about the importance of mental health and how to take care of that. And if we can teach them that young, then we can develop that across the lifespan. And so they also do presentations for high schoolers. It's a little bit different. We don't read the book or anything, but we do go in and we tell them a little bit about what's going on in their brain, because high school is a very traumatic time when it comes to stuff that's happening inside of your brain and inside of your head. And so just trying to help them understand that there's ways to get help and that there is hope, and that yes, mental illness is real, but it's also treatable.
We have the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, which not just works a lot with prevention of suicide, but if somebody dies by suicide, they go to the schools or to the workplace to do postvention. There's kind of a weird contagion about suicide, and they just want to make sure everybody's okay or has someone to talk to. Connectedness. We also do, for over 30 years, we've had an Alzheimer's and aging program, so we can go and talk about healthy aging, Alzheimer's caregiving. We can train long-term care staff, lay people. We think that it's very important that people age healthy at home, and we want that quality of life and independence to be there. We have about 3 people on staff that speak Spanish, and so they can answer our helpline in Spanish. And they also work with these unaccompanied minors that are coming up from Central America. I know that that can be a political issue for some, but if we're called to love our neighbors, I'm telling you, these children, many of whom are living with sponsors instead of a relative, many of whom have been traumatized on both sides of the border, they're here, and we are connecting them to mental health, legal resources, making sure that they're enrolled in schools, not being exploited by their sponsors, and trying to create better tomorrows for all of our neighbors here in Middle Tennessee. And then we also have online screenings, professional continuing education, community education, and health fairs. And we even train law enforcement in what I call mental health first aid.
This is good.
It's a great training. It's an 8-hour training on how to recognize mental illnesses. You know, Trish, you might know how to go do CPR or the Heimlich maneuver and stabilize a physical situation until the professionals come. Mental health first aid helps to train people to recognize that that person in the airport's having a panic attack, or I'm picking up on some suicide ideation from this person, or I need to approach this person differently as a police officer because they seem to have an addiction or a mental illness or be in psychosis. And it's so important for our first responders to know they're not entering a dangerous situation. They just need to de-escalate a mental health crisis.
Fascinating. The more we talk about this, it strikes me that even though we're talking about mental health, it's emotional. So many, I don't know if it's cause or effect, but so much of the ingredients in this soup is emotion.
It is, and I think that that's what we really try to teach teachers too, that there's some outbursts in class and some behavioral problems that it's not just obstinance, but it could be an emotional, a social emotional disruption that needs to be settled down. And, you know, I don't know if that person might need therapy or medication or someone to talk to or housing or some basic needs. But I'm telling you, we have really not addressed mental health like we should in this country. And we need to give it its due. And we just worry a lot about people who feel like, well, I have an insurance that only says I can have 10 visits to a counselor.
Wow.
Well, that's actually against the law now. There's parity laws that you need to treat, insurances need to treat physical health and mental health on par or equal or with parity now. And we work a lot with those types of situations too, because whether it's social, emotional, mental, or overall wellness, there's just no health without mental health.
I think that's right. That's fair.
And I would even add faith to that. There's a lot of churches who say, you just need to pray more. And I believe in prayer, but I'm telling you, that medication or that therapy, that is there for a reason, and we need to talk about that. We need to use all the resources, whether they're at a primary care physician's office, a social worker's office, a church, your employment assistance program with your HR manager. I would say use every resource that's available.
And so being able to get those resources and letting them know that people are willing to listen to you and you're not alone with this difficult struggles and stuff that you're dealing with. You know, suicide is a very complex issue. No one dies by suicide for one reason. They die because of a number of different reasons that's in their life. And if we can get folks to come up with ways to cope and deal with those stressors in their life, then we can really make a difference and save a life.
So I would say that for folks that may be interacting with people that we don't know what's going on, you may just see things that somebody looks sad, somebody looks dark, somebody feels alone, somebody's having recurring bad days. Be a friend, be an encouragement. You never know what resonate with somebody. And I think that just by engaging in dialogue, hey, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Get them in touch with us up here at Mental Health America, the MidSouth. There are resources out there, and you don't have to be the one to solve the problem.
Let's talk about the geographical scope of your work. Your name has the MidSouth in it these days. What does that mean?
So we started out as a Nashville-based organization, and I think it was in 1988 we changed to MHA of Middle Tennessee, and then we recently changed to MHA of the MidSouth. And the reason that we did that, there used to be 2 or 5 affiliates in Tennessee that would address mental health just like we would, and now there's just 2. There's one in Knoxville, and there's ours. It's just like if the Alzheimer's Association has chapters, or the Red Cross has chapters. And so just seeing that Memphis was, the top 3 city on the Mississippi River, and one of the top 50 cities in the United States, and that they needed more help, as well as that rural West. We now cover pretty much Middle and West Tennessee, and we try to make all of our education available throughout that service area. Currently, we have somewhere between 15 and 25 staff. It fluctuates sometimes year to year, but we do the best we can, and we have a lot of online resources too for rural communities that either hate the Nashville traffic or just can't make it in.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about those online resources. What might someone in Giles County, for example, be able to access on your website?
So on our website, we have different coping skills people could look at. We have online screenings. We have 10 online screenings. So if you wanted to just do a test for depression, anxiety, trauma, addictions, even workplace wellness. I take that one every Monday morning, but
Do you score the same every week?
I do. But, that's a great way. And this isn't like taking a screening or a survey in a Cosmopolitan magazine. I mean, this is an evidence-based screening that has real results, that if you score positive or, it shows that you need help, then that's when people can pick up the phone and give us a call. One of the greatest resources that I see a lot more youth utilizing, it's called the crisis text line, and you could dial 741-741, and maybe you could just text them Tennessee or help. I mean, you could text them anything you want, but if you dial that to 741-741, you will immediately be connected to a trained crisis counselor. So if you are in full-blown psychosis, or just having a terrible day, or thinking about suicide, or needing help for someone else, that's a great way to get help.
That's amazing, and it's all via text, is what you're saying. So
It is.
I don't have to, if I'm crying or if I am embarrassed about my story, it's definitely easier to say it in writing, in text length writing, than it is perhaps to make a call and have to spill the story.
It is. And I hate to say this, but when I go visit schools, every classroom I talk to, every classroom, there's at least one student who comes up to me and says, I need help, or my sibling needs help, and my parents are too embarrassed to get us the help we need. How do I get help? And so I talk to them about accessing their school counselor or the crisis text line, and try to hook them up to where at least they could do something and talk to someone.
Bravo for that teenager who comes up to you and asks that question.
Yes, and I have been so glad to see the stigma being reduced some, because I think it's these athletes that are coming out, and I think it's these returning soldiers with PTSD, and people just saying, I'm not going to feel this way. I'm not going to be this way. I'm not going to wait till there's a crisis. I was at a local university here, and I heard someone yell across campus, I can't go right now. I've got to go see my counselor, but I'll catch up with you. Maybe that was a career counselor. Maybe that was, but but that would never have been screamed across a campus when I was in
Sure,
college.
sure.
And so I'm glad to see these kiddos in elementary and middle and high school say, I need help.
It's awesome. Just so that we have it super clear, tell me what number to text again, please.
Yeah, for that crisis text line, it's 741-741.
And do you have to say anything in the initial?
We
what
tell
you'd
people text TN to 741-741. We track that just because we like to see if anybody listened to us. But I don't care what people text. Just text help, text hello, whatever it takes to 741-741.
And when you say you track it, you don't mean you read the text. You're just aware of how many people are using the resource.
That's right. That's
Awesome.
right. Yeah.
We've come to my favorite part.
All right.
My favorite part of the interview. It is called the speed round. And just like the game we used to play when we were kids, I'll ask you a question, and please say the first thing that comes to your mind. Just let it fly, and we'll go on to the next one.
Okay.
There's no wrong answers.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Speed round.
Here we go. Speed round with Tom Starling. Is experiencing mental illness something to be ashamed of?
Never.
Is experiencing mental illness something to be blamed for?
No.
Is not knowing what to do to help someone with mental illness something to be ashamed of?
No.
Can mental health problems be made better or even solved?
Always.
Can everyone have access to help?
Everyone, yes.
What number should they call to get help?
Area 615-269-5355.
What mark do you want Mental Health America of the Mid-South to make on the world?
If people could learn to treat mental illness just like physical illness and become healthy, we've done our job.
And the easiest one of all, what's your website?
It's MHAMidSouth.org. Again, MHA, like Mental Health America, MidSouth.org.
Fabulous. Tom Starling, thank you.
Thanks again so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
It's our Nashville.